Hey Jenifer, Dusty here from Toyota of Gladstone. I am doing a virtual delivery for your car since I know that you've been here for a while, and I wanted to just get this knocked out. That way you can have this video to refer to, and you guys can get on the road a little earlier. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to just go quick through all of the buttons that we see. So starting here, this leftmost right here, this is for adjusting the brightness of all of your instrument clusters and stuff up here. This right here is for automatic high beams. So when you turn your brights on, brights are turned on by flicking this lever forward. If you turn on the automatic high beams, there's a camera up here behind that, in that black gray box right there. That camera will detect the headlights of another car coming at you and automatically dim your brights. This right here is for turning on and off traction control. So really not a good reason to ever do that unless you're already stuck in a ditch. Traction control is moving power around from one wheel. For any wheels that are slipping, it's moving power away from those to the wheels that are gripping. Turning that off will prevent that from happening, which then puts you in a position where you could lose control of the car. So don't do that. Last button down here, this is for opening the back hatch. I'm sure you probably knew that one. This lever right here is for mirror adjustments. It's in the right position right now, so you probably were adjusting your right mirror over there. It's a joystick, so you'll basically turn it to the left or turn it to the right or turn it to the neutral position to not do either one. And then once it's in that position, you toggle it left, right, up, down. You move the whole joystick to control that. Next to that, you have this button right here. This is for the automatic folding mirrors. Right now it's in this A position, so it'll automatically fold the mirrors in when you turn the car off, and it'll automatically fold the mirrors back out when you unlock the doors. So pretty handy. You can manually control that by pressing this down. It'll automatically fold the mirrors, or pressing that up to automatically fold the mirrors out. So whichever the needs are. Down here you've got your standard array of door locks and window controls. So you're probably pretty familiar with that. Moving up here, we've got this directional pad here. This moves through all of the different menu options that are up here. Now you can see there's a check engine light and a bunch of other things on that normally aren't on. I have the car in accessory mode, not all the way on, so I'm not gassing the showroom floor while I'm sitting in here talking about it. But anyway, this directional pad, whoops, move my hand, navigates through all the different menu options up here. So you can see there's a ton of menus across the top. The icon kind of gets bigger when I'm on that menu. And then in some of these menus, they have, like this one, for example, has more menu options if you push up or down. So I find that a lot of people probably will leave this in this position right here, where they get this big display of their speed. Back down here, there is a back button right here. So if you're in one of those menus and you need to get back out, this is your back button. This button is for making phone calls or answering phone calls when they're coming in, as long as you're connected with Bluetooth. This down here is for adjusting the volume of your phone calls or adjusting the volume of your music, depending on which audio you've got coming out. You can adjust that volume right there. And this guy right here is for your voice commands. So if you press that button, the car will say a command, and then you'll tell it to call mom or whatever. You can still use the functionality of Siri or whatever phone service you use. That is still an option for you too, but you do have a button right there to control it. Over here, I talked about these earlier, but this one is for lane detection. This one right here is actually for the automatic cruise control, the smart cruise control, if you will. That one will adjust the following distance. So if I turn the cruise control on and I press that button that I was just pointing at, you'll see up here, well, it's not doing it because the car is not all the way on. But anyway, that will adjust the following distance from long, medium, and short. And I'll come back to that in just a second. This mode button down here is for changing from AM to FM to Bluetooth to Sirius radio, all the different modes of radio. And then these controls are for jumping through the different channels, presets of the radio, or skipping the song if you're playing a song from a playlist on your phone. We talked about this. This is pretty standard cruise control features, except that this is for smart cruise control. And set it once you're at the speed, resume if you touch the brake or for some reason stop the cruise control, you can resume the speed that it was at. The car's automatically going to do that stuff when you have the smart cruise control on anyway. So yeah, moving on. Over here we've got the Infotainment Center is what they call it. You got a nice row of physical buttons on both sides, which I like having the physical buttons instead of having all digital buttons that don't exist, because they are tangible. You can feel that you've clicked them. These buttons around the edge of the screen there get you to the main parts of this system. So for example, if I click on right here, we've got audio. That was at the home screen. If I click home, it takes us back to that. I also can click this button to get to that exact same menu. So there is a little redundancy, different ways of doing the same thing. Toyota has done that for the ease of use for a lot of people. Some people figure out one way to do it and they never realize that there's another way. But there's multiple ways of accomplishing the same thing in many cases. Back to the home screen here, what we've got a display of what's going on with our hybrid system. This is a very basic display of where power is coming from and where it's going to. If you have your Bluetooth connected, you'll have 4 quick contacts that you can set up right here. And that way, when you're driving down the road, you'll just tap the screen on whichever contact and it'll call that person. It makes it super easy. And then over here, we've got whatever music you're displaying or playing right now displayed. So if you had even playing music through your phone, usually it can figure out who the artist is and have that information there for you. Moving down, we've got your environmental controls. So right now I see that little sync light over on the right side is lit up. That means anything I do to this dial will affect both sides of the car. So if I crank it all the way up to high, or if I roll it down because it's too hot, it's happening on both sides. Now, if the passenger takes control of their own and they just dial this, it'll automatically turn the sync off. Passenger can have theirs all the way up to high, and you can keep yours at a nice cozy 75 or whatever you want to do. This auto button here will automatically adjust the heating and the cooling and how much is blowing in order to try to maintain whatever setting you have. So it'll automatically adjust how hard it's blowing or how hot it's blowing or cool, trying to maintain that temperature. This button right here just turns the whole system off if you don't need it anymore. And this is for turning on and off AC specifically. So if you have it cranked all the way down to cold, AC might not be on, but if you turn on the AC, then it'll run the air conditioning. So moving across these buttons down here, that first button on the left says front. That one is for turning on the front defrost so that the warm air will blow on your windshield. Next to that, you have rear defrost. So that will actually turn on the heating elements that are in the back window and the heating elements that are resting underneath your rear view mirrors. Eco, heat, and cool. So what that does is that will limit how, I talked about this before, it'll limit how much power it'll allow the heating or the cooling system to draw. So your heat won't get quite as hot, your cold won't get quite as cold. It's constantly going to be adjusting the system, trying to make that work. We've got, this will just manually control how much air is blowing or how little air is blowing. This right here is for cycling through the different where the air is blowing modes. This is for recycling the air. And then this button right here, it's lit up. That means that the car is going to detect where passengers are sitting in the car. And if there's not a passenger in the seat, it will not direct any of the airflow to that seat. So it's kind of a handy feature, again, for environmental controls. Lastly, I've got a couple buttons down here. I'll go real quick. The red light, that's the parking brake. You can automatically, it will disengage that parking brake and re-engage it, so you don't even need to worry about it, but you do have the power to disengage that if you need to. Right here, you've got this auto hold button. That'll keep the brakes applied until your vehicle comes to a complete, until your foot touches the gas pedal. So when you come to a stop, if you have that on, it'll keep the brakes applied. So maybe you're stopped on a hill or you're in a long line for a drive-through or something like that and you don't want to roll forward by accident. That'd be a good opportunity to use that. EV mode, EV for electric vehicle, keeps the vehicle running in electric mode as long as possible. So it'll change the settings, it'll do a bunch of stuff and adjust a bunch of things so that it'll run a little bit more efficiently, trying to run and use up the battery as much as possible. Next to that, you've got the drive mode. This is a toggle switch, so if I bump it up, it'll reflect up here, it'll go to sport mode. If I bump it down to normal or bump it over to eco, what that does is it changes a bunch of system settings. In sport mode, it'll make the throttle more responsive, it'll tighten the steering actually a little bit. In eco mode, it'll do a lot of these things I talked about that are saving energy things. It'll automatically set those. It's just a way for you to kind of quick set all of those things real quickly so that you can use them a little bit more efficiently or for your driving style. So I understand that David is paging me right now. It sounds like you guys are probably done in finance, so I'm going to wrap this up right now, and I'll post this on YouTube for you to be able to use and access at any time. Thank you so much for your business. Have a safe drive home, all right?